Hello and welcome to this new video. I'm Riccardo Agostini and today we will talk about mixing skin tones. Welcome in this video explanation on how to use Kimera Kolors. Today we'll talk about how to paint skin tones using Kimera Kolors. How to mix them mainly. So what you will see is the palette, as you can see, and how to create various type of skin tones with it. There is a little bit of theory behind it, so bear with me. I put on the palette a cold yellow, there it is, the red, a phthalo blue green shade, could have been red shade, but I used the green shade, the carbon black, and white. This white, I didn't use the white from Kimera Kolors for a simple reason. I used a Liquitex titanium white that is exactly the same color, but this one has less coverage and is glossy. For skin tone, having a gloss component is very useful. This is why I didn't use the Kimera white, but you can substitute it no problem, and you can eventually use the satin medium to help you out. Being too matte in skin tones is not too good, so this is why I am doing this. So there is a little bit of theory behind skin tones, and I started with primaries, more or less. This could have been a magenta actually, but doesn't matter much, because once you learn the basic trick about the mixing, you can do it with other colors too actually, and you are not let's say pigeonholed in using just these ones. So first of all, you have to ask yourself, what color is skin? that is the question. First of all, which skin? Are we talking about black skin, Arab one, a Caucasian one, a Far Eastern one? What skin? There is not a single color of skin, and inside the same skin color of a person there are many nuances. So remember, when painting, is the variety that plays a lot of the role in making it believable. But that said, let's start from the easiest one and then we can go to the more difficult one. The easiest one is the Caucasian skin tone, because it's a bit more forgiving than the others, so we can start from here. Hello and welcome in this video explanation on how to use Kimera Kolors. Today we'll talk about how to paint skin tones using Kimera Kolors. How to mix them mainly. So what you will see is the palette, as you can see, and how to create various type of skin tones with it. There is a little bit of theory behind it, so bear with me. I put on the palette a cold yellow, there it is, the red, a phthalo blue green shade, could have been red shade, but I used the green shade, the carbon black, and white. This white, I didn't use the white from Kimera Kolors for a simple reason. I used a Liquitex titanium white that is exactly the same color, but this one has less coverage and is glossy. For skin tone, having a gloss component is very useful. This is why I didn't use the Kimera white, but you can substitute it no problem, and you can eventually use the satin medium to help you out. Being too matte in skin tones is not too good, so this is why I am doing this. So there is a little bit of theory behind skin tones, and I started with primaries, more or less. This could have been a magenta actually, but doesn't matter much. Because once you learn the basic trick about the mixing, you can do it with other colors too actually, and you are not, let's say, pigeonholed in using just these ones. So first of all, you have to ask yourself, what color is skin? And that is the question. First of all, which skin? Are we talking about black skin, Arab one, a Caucasian one, a Far Eastern one? What skin? There is not a single color of skin. And inside the same skin color of a person, there are many nuances. So remember, when painting, is the variety that plays a lot of the role in making it believable. But that said, let's start from the easiest one and then we can go to the more difficult one. The easiest one is the Caucasian skin tone, because it's a bit more forgiving than the others, so we can start from here. So starting off about the Caucasian skin tone, we can say, I have a somewhat dark Caucasian skin tone myself, we can say that this color is mainly a brown. Maybe brown is a good way of understanding the color. Another way of understanding it would be an orangey color. But brown is nice because brown, to mix a brown, you need an orange and a black, basically. So a darker desaturated orange is already a base for skin tone. In any case, this is a good thinking approach. So to create an orange, somewhat of an orange, you can use orange or you can use a yellow with a little bit of red. So you create an orange. From the orange to create a brown, you just need to make it darker and desaturated. Okay, I added more blue than needed, because this blue is extremely potent, so I will need to add a little bit more of the others. Okay. So yeah, we already have a kind of a brown. Black will do a similar thing than blue, but less powerful and less shifted towards the green. So you have a brown. To the brown, that you can use for as a base for many type of colors, skin colors actually, because it could be Asian, it could be Middle Eastern as a starting point, Southeastern Asian, I would say. If you add white to this mix, you make it more Caucasian. So you'll see in a moment. Add white, it is. So you have a mix that right now is a little bit too olive as a skin tone. If you compare it to mine, it's good for an Arabic skin tone, let's say Middle Eastern, if you want. It's a very good one. But for a Caucasian, we need a little bit more saturation. As you can see, there is more pink in it. And to get more pink, you do white plus red. So let's say I use red. And it's already shifting where it should be. Okay. I put my finger near it to just show. Then you can add more yellow if you want more saturation, and yeah, here it is, a skin tone. Not exactly my skin tone, but a Caucasian skin tone. Mine is a little bit different, but doesn't matter. Now, if you want to paint a skin tone on a model, this color will not help you too much. It's very useful to understand how it's created, and you could see it. It's just a matter of adjusting it a little bit. But it's not too helpful because you usually wouldn't start with this. You would start darker probably. So you will need a mix before this that is a little bit darker. And when you go darker, it's a good idea to go more saturated too. So what I would do to get a darker skin tone on the side, I would do more red, more yellow, a little bit of black, a little bit of blue, not too much. Blue is always very strong. And okay, and here you have a darker skin tone to start from. Then you can do intermediate passages to reach here. And if you want to go lighter, there is the addition of course, more white, but when you go lighter, you could use more yellow. Sorry, my brush was a little bit too stained with blue. But okay, let's add more white now. And since we lost a little bit of saturation, red is useful to get it. So okay, you have somewhat of a gradient for a Caucasian skin tone, you know? But then it depends where you want to apply, because you see, if you look at my fingertips, they naturally are more red than this. So for the variation of skin tone, you may have a redder part, let's say pinker. So you pick up some white and red and you do a colder version of it, a little bit, and then you use all the variation that you create in the palette to do your skin tone. For example, for shadows, it's very useful to have a purpler version of the skin tone, you know? It's a very useful differentiation of shadows, because if you use only this part of the palette, it will become very muted and the contrast is very low. But if you use from here to here, meaning from purple to yellow, you will achieve more contrast. So be sure to play with your colors. And this is just an example with very few colors. I don't want to go too deep into it. And this is for a Caucasian skin tone, you know? It's a simplified version. You can get more complicated than this, of course, but it is a good approach. Now, about the other type of skin tones. Let's talk about the dark black skin tones, for example. Those skin tones have a peculiarity that is they are more glossy in a way, so their reflection point is narrower, and this is the difficult part to understand when you paint them, because it's not only about achieving a basic blend of shades, but this is also about how you paint them. It's about how you place your lights, how dark are your shadows. So that is quite the most important part, because you know the process is not very different from this. It's just the proportions that change. It's only about that. So if you go about it and you create a dark color with red and blue, and you put a touch of white, you have these. It's not very visible in camera because there is shine, but you have this purplish dark color that if you increase, there is a lack of yellow. If you increase it, you'll see it. This does not feel like a skin tone now because there is no yellow. Skin tones have a little bit of yellow anyway in it, because they are all shades of browns actually. So you do decrease when you go up the blues, and you build up a dark brown, so that you can create this desaturated but dark skin tone, you know. These are just examples, but it is useful to understand the situation, and it is very difficult to get it right away, and the camera may trick you a bit in the color. I'm not sure they do feel right, because I'm checking the camera, and in the camera they are a bit different than what I see here, but this is just an example. Then you may recreate it in your palette. In any case, as I was saying, a brown is an orange with black. So if you ever find yourself in a difficult spot, you create an orange, you add a little black, and you have browns, you see. Of course you can use directly the orange. So you have a brown, you make it as dark as you want, then you mix it with your whites, a little bit more yellow when you go to the light. If you have a warm environment, let's say, in your painting, you eventually reach a wider point, so you have various brown nuances to play around. Remember that most of the time the darker skin tones, since they are more reflecting, they tend to have also colder reflections of the sky. So this is why it could be useful sometimes to do a bluer reflection point, meaning you use your brown, but you use more blue to do your last point. It looks like more gray, but when you place it around the warmer browns, you'll end up feeling this blue feeling about it. So it is a useful situation. About Eastern skin tones, they are not too different from the Caucasian palette. Actually, they are very similar. Some of them they may use more yellow, some of them they may use more pink actually. For example, the Japanese one, female Japanese skin tones are mostly pinkish, very low amount of yellow. So this is a good thing to know if you look at the picture in a very intense way. So okay, this is how to achieve easy mixes. Then it's important that you play in your palette and you place your colors in the right spots, of course, of your miniature. And if you want to go darker in stuff, you can always add black. And if you are losing saturation, because it's possible, you may add a little bit more blue to it. So yeah, you may have all these tricks. Now this is with all the primaries, but I want to show you a couple more things to play with the more colors to the palette, so you can understand a little bit of the thought process. So the first is the magenta in here, and this could work as a red. It will just shift our skin tones a little bit, but this is very useful to understand when you want to do atmospheric, let's say, painting, so that you decide that your red is actually a magenta instead of a red and you want to be colder. So for example, for any skin tone that you want to do, instead of using red, you put the magenta down, with the yellow, you add a different type of orange at this point, but it's still an orange. You add white. more yellow, because this is very pinkish. So in this way you are getting more of a Nordic type of skin that has less warmth in it, because it is the red is not used. You use a magenta that is colder than red. So you have this other type of situation. It's not that it doesn't work, it works. It's just a little bit different. So if you want to go colder in general, you may substitute the red with the magenta. It's just the principle that counts. This is very important, because you know that magenta is a type of red. It's colder, so you go and you substitute one with the other and you get a little difference in color. Mind you, this thing is not too different than this thing. They are on the same spectrum, let's say. Another thing you can do, I put here the oxide green from the second set, and you may go at it in a different way. Instead of using the blue, you use this color to desaturate. And this you will achieve a different thing, but the important part is the harmony here. So you may think, okay, I don't use strong blues in my figure, so maybe desaturating with blue is not a good idea. Perfect. This is nice. So you can use the oxide green to desaturate the red. You'll get a different desaturation level, because an oxide green is less strong than a blue, because it's not a blue. So of course, so your desaturation is a little bit different. As you can see here, you get a different type of brown. If you want, you do Caucasian, you add white. If you don't, you don't use much white, but here it is. You have a different type of desaturated skin tone. You can saturate with yellow if you want. This is just another example. So don't be scared about using different colors. Just remember that each color has a purpose, and before mixing them, think about them. In this other case, we have the Acrylic yellow from the expansion set. This is a yellow that has a bias toward the orange already. So what can you do with it? I have this yellow, I add white, and I have already a very saturated skin tone. In the screen it looks more yellow than it is. It's actually very pink. I don't know how to show it to you, but it is very pink already, but you can use a little bit of red and you're set. It works because it's already a very similar to orange color. The next one is the orange, this one. And since you usually mix white with red and yellow, you're already mixing oranges. So if you add white to this orange, you get another type of skin tone. Let me pick a little bit more white. So yeah, here it is, and it is already very similar to the other one done with the Acrylic yellow. If you want, you can desaturate it. If you think it's too strong, you add a little bit of, for example, oxide green. And yeah, here it is, a more desaturated type of skin tone. Very sorry that my camera shows the color a little bit biased toward the yellow. I hope I can post-process it in a good way. Then we have the oxide, the red oxide and the yellow oxide. These two are in the booklet already, because if you mix them, you already have a brown and another type of brown that is more yellow. You mix the two, you have a desaturated brown that works as a base of a skin tone. If you want to make it dark, you can just use a little bit of black, so you can have a dark type of skin tone. that is very useful. If you want to make it more vibrant in your shadow, you can add blue and red to it, so you make it more purple, let's say, so it's more strong. The reflection of the light doesn't show it too much. Yeah, here it is, so you can see it better. But this is a very easy combination for Caucasian or not Caucasian skin tone, because then if you want Caucasian, here it is with white. This combination, you add more of the yellow oxide, and you have already a similar color to all the others. So the thing here is, what you can take away from this little lesson is that you can reach these colors in any way by using different methods. What it is important is how you think about them. And remember also that the least amount of colors you mix, the more powerful they are on your palette and on your model, because they gray out less. Another useful thing to remember is that shadows are better if they are more saturated, and lights, usually they require more yellow, because yellowish is the light of the sun, so it gives warmth. Unless you are painting an ambience paint with a lot of cold color, then it's very different. And I cannot cover the topic with this, because you need the full model to work with you, meaning that colors are helping each other, so your eyes will understand them in relation to the other. So it's not a matter of seeing it in a palette, it's a much more deep topic, okay? But remember, to go towards the light, usually you go with white and yellows. To go towards the shadows, you go towards the black and the blues and the reds. They are darker colors by themselves. You can use any type of yellow, you can use any type of red, you can use any type of blue. Just stick to one of them. I didn't use the warm yellow in this try, but not for a specific reason. Believe me, because we can put, a lot of it, we can put the warm yellow and make it work just fine. Let's say warm yellow, a little bit of magenta, and white. A little bit more, let's be strong. You have a very vibrant skin tone, that Caucasian, that maybe you want to tone down with a little bit of green. And you have an intermediate thing similar to this one, actually. So it doesn't really matter. What matters is where you want to go with your skin tone, you know, and your paint as a whole. If you want to make it darker, here it is. It's not too difficult, you know. So it's just a matter of trying. Doing these little experiments in a palette is very useful, because you see how the paints react and how you can mix stuff all together to reach a color that you like. And one last thing about this, let's pick up an experiment here. I have a Vallejo color that is sunny skin tone, carne dorada. So you put it here, you look at it, and say, wow, how can I achieve this color? This looks very difficult to do at the first time, but you know, by picking things in the palette, I don't think it's very difficult at all to achieve a very similar color, because it has a lot of white, this one. There's yellow, you can choose one. Okay, I'll pick the Acrylic. No, let's not pick the Acrylic, I'll pick the warm, so more people can use this. Warm yellow and white. and then a bit of red. And the only thing that lacks is a little bit of the saturation in this thing. So I will desaturate, add a little bit more white because that color is darker. Okay, just a touch more red. And on my palette they are already looking extremely similar. So what teaches this? What teaches this actually? That the already bottled Skintones, what they do for you is providing a color that is a premix, but of very basic things. So you see this is the same color right now. They provide you a recipe that could be good, but it could also hinder you because it may not adapt to your atmospheric composition. So knowing how to achieve a mix through basic color is extremely important to make your painting very coherent. So you can go and do it in an easy way. And this will give you a lot of understanding on how to move forward. So I encourage you to try this experiment before painting on a model, to understand what adding white does, what adding red does, what adding blue does, how to do dark colors, light colors. This will be an invaluable lesson that will teach you a lot for all your future painting, so you know where to go and you know how to adjust when a thing doesn't look right to you. We can do a lot of experiments like this. Let me know if you like to see more color recreation from other brands through just basic Kimera Kolors, because not having white mixed in make this experiment possible. If you try to replicate that color from Vallejo, for example, with other type of paints, you will not succeed. It will gray out and it will be a lot of back and forth and it will be a struggle. In this case, it's very easy. It's just trying, eyeballing the situation and go. You know, I use the green oxide that personally I love as a color. This is one of my favorite ever. But if you don't have it, you can use blue and it will work just the same. Just use way less because it's an extremely powerful color. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you liked this. This was an introductory video about how to mix skin tones, and I suggest you to try and experiment and see how each color can influence the others a little bit and have different tones, different atmosphere and everything. It was just an introduction. A much longer video would be needed to cover this subject very well. I want to say though one very useful thing in this. If you have the secondary set of Kimera Kolors, the expansion set Color of Nature, you will find a lot of browns and yellows, kind of yellows in the box. And those, since they are orangey browns, they all work very well for skin tones, especially the royal brown. So I suggest to try them, mix them with white and see what happens for you, because there is a lot there to discover. And maybe we can do a more advanced video on this in a future episode. In the meantime, I hope you liked what you see and that it was helpful for you. Have a good day.